Combat Sports is the latest album from the Vaccines. We are joined by Justin and Freddie from the band. Welcome back to San Francisco.
Howdy.
Great to see you guys.
Good to be here. Nice
we were
to
just
see you again.
Chatting off camera about our last interaction way back when we were first starting out.
2011, also on a sofa, but outside.
Yeah. One of those rare moments in San Francisco where it's warm.
One of those rare moments where you get to sit on a sofa outside as well.
Yeah. I was just thinking about your guys' history. You came out when social media was kind of in its nascent stage, right? MySpace was basically it.
Yeah, it was
Facebook
still in
was
school.
just starting.
It was still in school, yeah.
Yeah, and you were still in school. There was no Snapchat. There was no Instagram.
No.
I'm kind of curious. What were you doing backstage? What were you doing before gigs? During those
talking.
Good question. I mean, we weren't reading.
No.
I don't really know. Carving stone, I don't know.
A lot of sleeping.
Thank you very much, San Francisco.
3 albums in, and now you have the new one in which a lot of people turned around and said, wow, that is not English graffiti. That's the Vaccines that I knew, that I grew up with, or what have you, right? And so that's kind of what I understand was the approach of the music for this album, right? Where it was,
Not really. It was. I mean, I think the lesson learnt from English graffiti and from combat sports is that you can really have an intention, a very specific intention for something, but it might not necessarily actually end up there, and that whatever you try and do, a record kind of had a mind of its own. So we definitely didn't decide we want to get back in the room, we want to do this, we want to go back to these sounds. We just thought we had to do right, and
I feel like for me it's a case of like we've always been trying to figure out who the Vaccines are and what the Vaccines do, and every record you make is sort of like reactionary to the last record, and I think that so you're kind of constantly on this journey, and like sometimes it takes you to a place that maybe retrospectively you kind of don't want to be, and so you kind of pull back, or and so I feel like combat sports came from it sort of came from the same place as English graffiti. It just took us somewhere different, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's a very liberating record, combat sports, because I feel like it just tied up so many loose ends of things that in that process, like Justin says, of trying to discover who we are and what we do. Like there's so many kind of like full stops in that record, and I think we would probably never make a record like that again. So it's very liberating for what happens after that.
For this particular album, it took some time. Obviously, you had a departure from Pete of the band, one of the founding members, and so a lot of people are like scratching their heads. Oh my God, what are they going to do? Is he going to go back to JJ? What's going to happen, and so forth. Was there any thought of even veering into socio-political type of themes informed by or anything like that?
No, absolutely not.
I think there's like a common misconception. The common misconception in 2018 that it's a responsibility of artists or people with a platform to like speak out. I don't think it's a responsibility. I think there's an opportunity to do it. But you have to remember that, can we possibly forget that there are so many terrible things going on in the world? And actually, a lot of people, my own connection with music is one of being able to forget and to sort of like put all that to one side for a second and be entertained and like strengthened and to have fun and like not to be reminded essentially. So I listen to music to forget, and there are plenty of people who are a lot sort of better qualified and more passionate about us that are writing great songs and painting great paintings and whatever, but was like just doesn't interest me at all.
I think it's really, like Justin says, like it's supposed to be like obligatory, but I think like my personal views on it is that maybe the best thing you can do to have influence in socio-political matters is be informed. Like instead of spending all your time like shouting your opinion out, maybe spend your time really studying what that
forming
an opinion, like go inward, study what you believe, what you think, and I think from our perspective as individuals, we're not really the best people to be. Do you know what I mean?
Who am I to say what's right or wrong? I know what I feel. I know where like my moral compass points, I know what keeps me up at night. I know what makes me angry and what makes me sad and stuff. But really, I'm not sure I know if I'm right. Anyway, I think like that's all kind of, to me, that's all irrelevant. I think the most important thing is that music should be, or music can be, fun and entertaining and silly and empowering and all these other things. It doesn't have to be doesn't always have to be awakening, you know.
Yeah. But that said, I think anything that makes you go on your own kind of quest for knowledge about what's going on and what you think is a really good thing.
Now that everything is pretty much stabilized in terms of the lineup, you have the new album out. Do you think it'll be a shorter period of time in which new material will then
I think
start
so.
to cycle through?
I think so. I think we're releasing something later this month, which is new, that isn't on Combat Sports. I think that's the plan. It's funny, I was actually sort of thinking about this last night. You know, like, I think often why it takes bands so long to make a record is because they don't know what kind of record they want to make, or that's certainly in the case of the Vaccines. It's always been that way, but I think we kind of know what we want the next record to sound like, and we kind of already have songs that kind of exist in that world. I think we know how to get that, and I don't know, it feels so far so good. It feels pretty painless. Like, we definitely don't have an album written, but I think that I would be disappointed and surprised if we had to wait sort of 3 years to kind of finish that process and let the world hear it.
Yeah. Well, look forward to the new material.
Thanks, sir.
And the show tonight, and really appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Great to catch up with you
us.
guys again. Justin and Freddie from the Vaccines, Combat Sports, their latest album. You're watching B-Sides on Air.